Hey, welcome to the computer system tour for the laser tag. So we'll get started firstly by looking at the control center. So the control center is like the front end sort of system to choose which game we're going to play, choose the duration of the game, change settings if we need to. So what we're looking at is this section here. We've got basically a group selection. So we're pretty much always working out of public games. The other game groups are tournament games and standard. So standard's just like the default that comes with the system. We've created our own list called public games, so we can select the main ones that we choose from. The purpose of this video is not to go through all the game formats. That'll be for a future video, but I just want to familiarise you with how it all works. Team with abilities is like the one that we use, 70 to 80% of the time. It's our default go-to, our champion game, you could say. Now we know it's selected because it has the little arrow there. If I click on a different game, say Fast and Furious Team, it'll sort of pre-select it, but we're not actually playing that game yet. If I was to start a game now, it would still play Team with Abilities because that's where the arrow is. Okay. If I double click, boom, now we're playing Fast and Furious Team. And you would have noticed that this little title here changed as well. So if I go back to Team with Abilities, I'll click on it. Hasn't changed to Team with Abilities yet, but if I double click, we're now playing Team with Abilities. Okay. Now game time, typically we're playing an 8 to 10 minute game or a 7 to 10 minute game, depending on how back to back the games are on that day. So all you do is you click up and down and that'll automatically change the game time. You don't have to click OK or anything like that. We can actually start a game from here by clicking start. If I click that, it'll start the game. Let's do that. At that point,
get ready to start.
We have music pumping and we're running a game and all that kind of stuff. This little timer here, we're looking at 150,000 billion times a day because that indicates what to do next. So once we get down to about 6-7 minutes, we're getting the next game ready for a briefing. If all the next game people have been briefed, we wait for about the 2-minute mark and we load everybody up to the next game. So we're always looking at that to guide what our next activity is for the day. You notice here we have finish and abort. So if we, I won't pause that music, I'll just keep going. Finish is if we want to keep the scores. Abort is like the game never happened. Scores get eliminated. So let's hit abort. Yes, are you sure?
Game over.
That won't show up on the scoreboard, it won't show up anywhere. It's like the game never happened, essentially. If we were to hit finish, it'll just basically finish the game early. Now, online is important to see. If you see anything other than online, there's some issue with the system, in which case we may have to close the system down and restart it, which we'll get into shortly. Now, next thing to look out for, these are all the settings in the game. So if I click on Team with Abilities, I can go into here to change settings. Now, typically you don't really mess around with the settings at all, but sometimes you may, if we're playing a changeable format where we want to change a few things, you may have permission to go change a few settings, but typically a lot of this stuff will probably be locked down. But if you look in here, you can see things like, not all the settings are the same for each game either, so you'll get different settings that you can possibly change for different games. But you can see here, if we were to make base 1, yellow base instead of red base, we can do that, okay? If we want to change the base mode from solo to team, which means on solo mode, it means that anybody can tag any base. On team mode, it means you can't tag your color base. You can only tag the other color bases. So there's a whole bunch of different things you can change in there. We're not going to go into that too much because we don't really need to change anything. Okay, that's all for the first part of sort of the system basics, and look out for the next video for more advanced system information. Okay, so we've gone through system basics. Now we're going to look more in detail at how the whole system works. So we've had a look at the control center. That isn't actually the engine that runs the game. The engine that runs the game is this thing here called game server. Okay, now if we look in this little icon tray down here, actually that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at this one here. Okay, you'll see all these icons. So laser game server, the little box one there, if we double click that, that opens up this server. If we look at NG, so status clock, if we open up that, it shows this like status clock here, which tells us how much time is left in the game. We have another one here called Acacia Wrap that runs the music, so we always want to have that running in the background. License server, without the license server open, the system won't run. It basically says, hey, this is a legal version of the software and you are allowed to run laser games. So that needs to be running. And this thing here, input-output server, you don't really need to worry too much about that. Okay, so game server, let's have a look through that. So you've got these three tabs here, game, upload, pack. Okay, if we go to game, essentially we can actually start games from here. If we can't get the control center working, that rarely happens, but sometimes you may not be able to get the control center working for whatever reason, you can actually start games from the game server and abort games and things like that. If we click on, there's three tabs here, there's packs, network and settings. If we click on packs, it actually has all the packs listed and tells us if they're idle. These ones here that are offline have been turned off. They're probably in the tech room requiring maintenance. If they're blocked, they're just not, they've basically been blocked from the system, so they won't even be looking for them. And it'll actually tell us if the packs are charging as well. I'm going to quickly whip in and put a pack on charge now so you can see what that looks like. So there you can see there now Eclipse is now charging, and these numbers here give us a indicator of how charged the pack is. So the lower the number, the more charged it is. I don't know why they've done it that way, but they have. And then there's some other information there about the version of the firmware and that kind of stuff. So that's not really relevant to us. But what it does tell us is if everything's coming up offline, like if all packs are coming up offline, you've got an issue. Probably there's some kind of server issue, or there's like the Wi-Fi is not working or something like that. Okay, so other things that you might need to know about network. If we go to network, this tells us if the bases are offline again. So it should say connected yes. We got 6 bases. If the bases come up as connected no, then we've got an issue. Often what you need to do in that situation is go and unplug the base, wait for 5 seconds and turn it back on again, and it will basically reset its IP address and then connect up. So sometimes we have IP issues where there's a conflict, like 2 things might have the same address, and then the whole system melts down. So in that case, we just turn things off and turn them back on again, and it kind of works. Targets, so basically there's 60 targets in the arena. We actually have 3 control boxes controlling those targets, so this just tells us whether they're connected or not. At the moment we only have 2 in operation, so that first one says no, and that's fine because I know about that. So if the bases aren't working, the first thing you do is come in here and check what's happening in here, if they're connected or not. Settings, don't really need to worry about any of that stuff. The only other thing you might use in here is if we go to the pack tab, restore teams. So if you've had a day where you've changed pack colors using a little handheld device, then you, at the end of the day, instead of trying to remember which packs you need to change back to which color or whatever, you just go restore teams and it restores them all back to their default color. Okay, so that's a bit of a tour of the game server. What we're going to do now is we're actually going to go through the process of shutting everything down and reopening it again. So if there's a problem, if things aren't working, if there's a game server crash, or for whatever reason, sometimes what will happen is this start button will just be grayed out and you won't be able to start any games, meaning there's an issue. What you want to do is be able to shut everything off and restart it again. So to do that, we need to shut down all the laser tag related programs. So we just close the control center like that, close the clock, close the game server, says yes, we are sure we want to close the game server. Then we come down into here, and this thing here called Acacia Wrap, we'll exit that. The Zios, that's a laser tag related thing, we close that. The license, we close that. Yes. Occasionally these 2 little programs here will be open, Demo Sync and LT Sync. That's got to do with the membership system. At the moment I've got them turned off, but if they're on, you just turn those off as well. Once everything's turned off, you literally just do a straight restart. Bang. I'm going to restart the computer. Actually, I've got TeamViewer running, so no, that'll be fine. No, I'm not going to do that because at the moment I'm team viewing in from another computer. So let's pretend like the computer's restart. So computers restart, and we're back here again. The programs that we need to run to start the system back up are all these ones here. and I've put them in order. So the first thing we do is start the license up. Okay. If we open up the license program, it's saying everything's licensed okay and everything's online. We've got 22 days left on our license. Great, that's awesome. We're really happy with that. Next thing we do is open the game server. Boom, open. If we double click on the game server, yay, packs are on idle and charging and doing their normal things. We're happy with that. Great. Go to network. Yay, bases are online. Yes, they're all connected. That's great. We're happy with that. Next thing we do is start the control center. Double click on that. Take a few seconds to open. Okay, great. Everything's online. Everything's working there. Remember, we had that other window out here with all the game settings. If you hit this little arrow there, that'll just bring that out. Next thing's the clock. That's just a little tool. You don't have to have that running, but it's just a little tool, so you can have the time running on that in the corner. Acacia Wrap, that's for our music. We run that, and Zios. To be honest, I don't even know what that does, but it's important, so we have it running. And that's how we start our system up again. Alrighty, if we have membership running, we're also going to run LT Sync and Demo Sync. So I've put them to the side at the moment because we don't really have membership cards just now, but we will have them as part of what we do soon, in which case at that time I'll move them up into the list here. Alrighty, that is our tour of the laser tag system.